Commanders, and then the Panthers, we suppose,
going to hire Ben Johnson.
Bringing up the rear. Maybe. We're waiting on Detroit's run. Everyone likes Aaron Glenn. Everyone likes him. The bottom line of it is, Schefter, where is Bill Belichick in all of this? I assumed, and I remember, you came on the day that Belichick, when you came on and told us that Belichick was officially going to be leaving New England. You and I both assumed that teams that were still, that had head coaches were going to consider making changes, much less all these teams that have openings. Where are we with Bill Belichick in this process now?
Well, here's where we are right now, Greeny. We're in a situation where the only team that has an opening, and the only one of the 8 that had a vacancy during this hiring cycle, that interviewed Bill Belichick was the Atlanta Falcons. And they interviewed him for a second time last Friday in person. And since then, the Falcons have paraded through a series of candidates for second interviews and other interviews and scheduled more and more talks with other candidates. That doesn't sound like a team that's ready to make a move on Bill Belichick. Now, coaching hiring cycles, they move in funny patterns sometimes. And sometimes a team starts out on a guy, cools, and comes back to him, or isn't interested and then gets interested. Well, in this particular case, the Falcons have shown that they are interested in a lot of people. And in their own words, they described to me over the weekend that their coaching search after they met with Belichick for a second time is wide open. So if it's wide open after you've met with Bill Belichick twice, that certainly tells you that he's not the favorite for the job. He has not talked to any of the other 3 teams. So of the 4 teams with the remaining openings, there's the real possibility that he's not going to get any of these head coaching jobs. Now, that's fascinating on a number of levels, but what I would say to you is this. When Tom Brady left New England in free agency, there were all of 2 teams that were serious about signing him. The Chargers and the Buccaneers, 2 out of 32. And last year, when Lamar Jackson was a free agent, nobody was interested in signing him to an offer sheet. So sometimes teams get in the way of themselves and don't make rational decisions.
Yep.
And so here we have the greatest coach of all time who's sitting there with a lack of interest, which, again, boggles my mind. But we've seen it before with Lamar. We've seen it before with Brady. And we see it unfolding now with Bill Belichick. I think teams are worried about maybe his age, about his lack of success in New England recently, about what he would want to do to that organization. But he's still Bill Belichick. And to me, you put him on a team, and that team is off to the races going in the right direction. But that's not the way the teams in this cycle are viewing it the same way that we are right now.
So here's what I'll say, Schefter, only slightly tongue-in-cheek. The NFL's loss could be our gain. We got a seat here. Thursdays, Bill Belichick on Get Up.
I'm sitting here.
I'm not
Kimberly,
taking, I'm
I can't
not
believe he
your
did that
seat.
to you.
No,
One
I just
Wesleyan grad for another.
We
Just
will have
kick me
a
out,
seat for him. Bill, do you think Brock Purdy is an elite quarterback? I'm looking forward to that question. Okay, so that's only half joking. Now did you want to remark on that quickly, Schefter? Go ahead.
Well, the only thing I would just say, again, and this is purely speculative, I want to be very clear, and we're just throwing this out there, having some fun, but we've heard over and over about the possibility that at some point in time, Andy Reid could walk away from football. So if the Chiefs were to win the Super Bowl this year, would that make him more likely to walk? And if he did walk at that point in time, and you're the Kansas City Chiefs, and Bill Belichick were still sitting out there, would that not be an interesting possibility if that's what Andy Reid decided to do, to go take a run at arguably the greatest coach of all time and to replace one legend with another? Again, we're having fun. We're throwing things out there.
Great.
But
Next
that's interesting to watch if the Chiefs can find their way to win the Super Bowl.
Listen, you are like the 4th person who has said that to me, and you're by far the most important one who has said it to me. Everyone else who has said that to me, again, everyone just speculating, could Andy Reid be about to walk away? Where there's a little bit of smoke, and if Schefter's willing to joke about it, then there feels like there's a little bit of fire. So just keep that in the back of your head, and let's see where that winds up taking us. In the meantime, I want to separate myself from Schefter on this, which is to say what I'm about to say I'm not attributing to him. But I think what's going on, at least in part here with Bill Belichick, is that the National Football League, like anything else, I guess, is kind of a bit of Game of Thrones. And there are people who are very entrenched in their positions in some of these organizations that don't want to give away or lose the authority or the power that they currently wield in their organizations. And they know if Bill Belichick walks in, that's exactly what's going to happen. And the person who gets the owner's ear last usually winds up winning. If Bill Belichick walks in the door of your organization, he immediately becomes the best football person in the building with zero exceptions. And we got people right now, and I'm pointing directly at Atlanta, who are doing everything they can to keep that from happening, even though they have absolutely no resume to fall back on and say, well, look, he's won 6 Super Bowls. I've been here a long time and figure I'm going to stay here a long time. That's what's happening to Bill Belichick.
Well, let me tell you what's unique about Atlanta. Number one, you got to look at the simple fact that Bill Belichick is not a spring chicken. He's 71 years old.
Yeah.
You look over the last 3 or 4 years and look at the average age of coaches that are being hired.
Yeah.
They're not 71.
How long do they usually last? How long did the last coaching hire in Atlanta last?
3 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can he coach 3 years?
But give me a second, though.
Go ahead.
You look at the young talent.
Yeah.
Is Bill Belichick going to be? These young cats are different, Greeny.
They are.
I promise
They
you.
are. They
You
are.
got to be able to relate to these dudes, man. There's no more, hey, whatever I say goes. They need to know why. You have to be able to have the patience to explain to them and tell them why. And then lastly, we talked about the quarterback position earlier. When it comes to the offensive side of the ball, that's the major deficiency for the Atlanta Falcons. If they draft one, you trust Bill Belichick to develop that young quarterback.
Yes. I trust him as much as I trust
That's
anyone
hard
to
because
develop a young
we
quarterback.
The problem is because we just saw in New England between Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi that they couldn't figure out the quarterback situation. I will say, I don't think there are 32 people that are better head coaches than Belichick. Like I don't like.
I don't think that-
You know what I'm saying? Like that.
Tom Brady was the 199th pick in the draft.
25 years ago,
Belichick turned him into the best quarterback that ever lived.
25 years ago.
I understand
so,
that. But
there's a couple of things attached to this. I still believe he'll get a job. Like that, maybe that's me being naive. Once he walks into your building, no one else gets credit but him. Mm-hmm. You know, like that is part of that power struggle as well.
Yeah.
It's like once he walks in and they go and win, oh my gosh, Bill Belichick saved the day. Nobody else is going to get credit for the potential success. 2 questions have been, one, the power, you know, and then who's his offensive coordinator? We had this conversation with Schefter yesterday because if you're Atlanta, you're sitting there going, we want you. But who are you bringing as your offensive
Josh
coordinator?
McDaniels.
Matt Patricia.
Okay,
Joe
but
Judge. he's gonna bring his guy.
The last time we watched Josh McDaniels be really good on offense as an offensive coordinator was years ago. He's
That's
had
not
one.
true. Mac Jones' rookie year, he played very well. He looked like he was ascending, and then Josh McDaniels left, and he fell off the
So
face
he's
of the
had
earth.
1 year in like the last 7 seasons where his offense has been solid. That's my thing. That you have to ask yourself. I just watched Las Vegas fire him, and their offense get better afterwards.
Which leads back, if they decide to go the young quarterback route, do you trust Bill Belichick and company to
greatest head coach
make
of
sure
all
that the
time.
young quarterback is in the right direction?
Schefter, get back in here.
Well, first of all, Josh McDaniels was a head coach, not the offensive coordinator. I know he's overseeing the offense and being a part of that, but I still think that Josh McDaniels is regarded around the NFL as one of the top offensive coordinators, despite the fact that there has been a lack of success recently. Mac Jones is a whole other issue. Like, there's all sorts of theories out there about him, why he did and didn't succeed, and I don't know how much Bill Belichick was or wasn't a part of that. I know he's the head coach there, so ultimately it comes back to him. But was that Bill's guy? I don't know about all these things. There's a whole slew of theories. Again, I come back to the fact that Bill Belichick, again, every team we've talked about this that had a head coach had to have discussions, and I know they occurred about whether they would be better off with their current head coach or with Bill Belichick. And all these teams made the decision that they would rather be and stick with who they are. Bill's still sitting out there.
And
Again,
it's a reason
there
why.
are 4 openings. Atlanta's the only one. Atlanta's the only one right now that would seem to be possible, and I don't know how likely it is, unless Andy, at the end of the season, if they win the Super Bowl, decides to walk, and then that becomes, in my mind, something that becomes a little bit intriguing.
Schefter made the best point as far as NFL teams and owners in particular sometimes just make the wrong choice. And a lot of people didn't want Lamar. A lot of people weren't in on Brady. And I think looking hindsight, they would have changed their minds, I think.
Look, I mean, these guys fire coaches every 2 or 3 years anyway. The idea that you're hiring someone who's 71 years old and he won't be there 10 years. How many coaches have been in their jobs for 10 years? Schefter, you're the best. Thank you. Stay close by, and we will come to you again as some of these openings get filled. If you were going to tell me you're going to get Jim Harbaugh, I'm listening. If you're going to tell me you're going to get anybody else and Belichick is available, I think it is a questionable decision.